The rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks has always been about far more than just 80 minutes of rugby. It is a contest built on history, pride, physical dominance, tactical brilliance, and mutual respect, and according to legendary former All Blacks head coach Sir Steve Hansen, it has even changed the way the sport is officiated. Speaking on the Rugby Unity podcast ahead of the highly anticipated four-test series between South Africa and New Zealand, Hansen revealed that one of the biggest reasons rugby introduced neutral referees was because of the intensity and controversy surrounding clashes between the two greatest rugby nations. It is a remarkable admission from one of the game's most respected coaches and highlights just how influential this rivalry has been throughout rugby history. As the Springboks, coached by Rassie Erasmus, prepare to defend their dominance against a resurgent All Black side, Hansen's comments have once again reminded rugby fans why this fixture remains the gold standard of international rugby. Few rivalries anywhere in world sport carry the same weight. Between them, the Springboks and the All Blacks have won 7 Rugby World Cup titles, produced countless legendary players, and created unforgettable test matches that have shaped generations of rugby supporters. Every meeting feels like a World Cup final regardless of the competition, and with the first test only weeks away, anticipation continues to build across both countries. Hansen explained that as a young rugby fan he would wake up during the night simply to listen to South Africa versus New Zealand on the radio, because those matches were considered special occasions. Even decades later, after coaching the All Blacks to global success, he still believes nothing compares to the emotion generated whenever these two giants collide. One of the most fascinating parts of Hansen's interview was his explanation of why neutral referees became such an important part of international rugby. According to the legendary coach, there was constant debate over whether referees from the competing nations were favoring their own teams. Every controversial penalty, every scrum decision, and every close call became the subject of fierce arguments between supporters, players, and administrators. The rivalry had become so emotionally charged that the sport eventually recognized the need for independent match officials to remove any perception of bias. Hansen described the Springboks All Blacks rivalry as a key indicator that pushed rugby toward adopting neutral referees, a decision that has now become standard practice across international rugby. It is an incredible reminder that this rivalry has influenced not only results on the field but also the evolution of the sport itself. Yet Hansen was equally determined to emphasize something often overlooked by fans. Despite the brutal collisions, relentless competitiveness, and enormous pressure surrounding every test, there has always been deep respect between the two nations. Hansen recalled that throughout his career, whether as a player or coach, the All Blacks respected the Springboks immensely both as rugby players and as people. He described them as fierce competitors who would give absolutely everything once the whistle blew, but equally as gracious opponents once the match ended. According to Hansen, after the final whistle, players from both sides could happily sit together, share a drink, and discuss the contest because they understood the unique bond created by competing in one of rugby's greatest rivalries. That balance of aggression on the field and friendship off it is one of the reasons this fixture remains so admired around the rugby world. Hansen summed it up perfectly when he said the rivalry brings the best out in both countries. That statement carries enormous weight considering the remarkable achievements of both nations over the past century. Whenever the Springboks face the All Blacks, standards immediately rise. Players run harder, tackle with greater intensity, defend more aggressively, and execute their skills under extraordinary pressure. Coaches spend months developing strategies specifically for these matches because tiny details often decide the outcome. Supporters expect excellence because history demands it. That expectation has consistently produced some of the greatest tests ever played and has helped both nations remain among rugby's elite for decades. As attention now turns toward the upcoming series, preparation has become the major talking point. The All Blacks have already traveled to South Africa, where they will begin with a warm-up match against the Stormers before tackling Rassie Erasmus Springboks. That extra fixture gives New Zealand an opportunity to adjust to local conditions, regain match sharpness, and allow combinations to develop before the opening test. Meanwhile, the Springboks have chosen a different route. Rather than arranging multiple warm-up matches, Rassie Erasmus has traveled to Argentina with a carefully selected squad of 26 players for what will be the team's only fixture before facing the All Blacks. Unsurprisingly, The decision has generated discussion throughout the rugby community, with many questioning whether a single match provides sufficient preparation for such an enormous series. Hansen, however, believes there is far more to Erasmus' thinking than simply preparing for the next test. In his opinion, every decision made by the Springboks coaching staff is connected to a much bigger picture, particularly the long-term objective of defending their Rugby World Cup crown. Hansen suggested that Rassie Erasmus and his coaching group have carefully selected a squad combining experienced leaders, established internationals, fringe players, and exciting young talent because every tour provides another opportunity to develop depth. Rather than focusing solely on immediate results, Erasmus appears determined to expose more players to international rugby, allowing them to experience the demands of touring while learning directly from senior figures within the squad. Hansen believes those experienced players are not simply traveling to win matches, but to mentor younger teammates, teaching them the standards, discipline, and professionalism required to succeed as Springboks. That philosophy has become one of the defining features of the Springboks under Rassie Erasmus. Unlike many international coaches who rely heavily on a settled starting 15, Erasmus has consistently rotated his squad, trusted emerging talent, and created competition across every position. The result has been exceptional depth that allows South Africa to remain competitive regardless of injuries or player availability. It also means newcomers arrive in the international environment surrounded by world-class professionals who pass on valuable knowledge gained from years of test rugby. Hansen clearly admires that approach because it ensures the Springboks are building not just for one series but for the future of South African rugby. It is also a reminder that modern international rugby requires squads rather than simply starting lineups. With increasingly demanding schedules and physical contests, successful teams need 40 or more players capable of performing at test level. As for the All Blacks, they know they face perhaps their biggest challenge yet. Traveling to South Africa has never been easy, and defeating the Springboks on home soil demands accuracy, composure, and immense physical courage. Every aspect of the game will be tested, from the scrum and line-out to tactical kicking, breakdown efficiency, and defensive organization. New Zealand will rely on their trademark speed, skill, and attacking ambition, while the Springboks will once again look to impose themselves through relentless physicality, set-piece dominance, and disciplined defense. It promises to be a fascinating clash of styles between two rugby philosophies that have repeatedly pushed each other to new heights. Beyond the tactical battle, this series represents another chapter in one of rugby's richest traditions. Every generation has produced iconic moments involving these two teams, from dramatic last-minute victories to World Cup classics that remain etched in sporting history. New stars will now have the opportunity to write their own stories, while experienced veterans will understand exactly what these matches mean to millions of supporters watching across the globe. Hansen's reflections serve as a timely reminder that although trophies, rankings, and records are important, the true value of this rivalry lies in its ability to inspire excellence. It has shaped players, influenced coaches, transformed refereeing standards, and elevated international rugby for generations. As the countdown to the first test continues, excitement is reaching fever pitch because everyone knows that when the Springboks and the All Blacks meet, rugby usually produces something unforgettable. Whether it is a bone-crunching tackle, a moment of individual brilliance, a tactical masterclass from Rassie Erasmus, or another memorable performance from the All Blacks, fans can expect another gripping chapter in a rivalry that continues to define the very highest level of international rugby. If Sir Steve Hansen's words are any indication, this is much more than a series of test matches. It is the rivalry that has helped shape modern rugby itself, and once again it is ready to bring out the very best in both South Africa and New Zealand.